Man, the hardest thing of all time is staying quiet for those 10 seconds. That's always when I gotta clear my throat. My name's Sean Shaler. Welcome to Avatar, The Last Podcasters. My name's Sean Shaler. That's Chris Ford. And apologies in advance. My brain's all over the place today. But that being said, this is like the cathartic end to, it's the perfect cathartic end to my week. It is exactly what I needed to wind down, was to do some podcast stuff. So thank you, Chris, for joining me on your Friday evening when you could be doing your crafts, your glasswork. Are you still in the glasswork?
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty much done with it. Only thing I have left to do is the grout, and that's going to take like an hour or so. But just I can't do it at night. I have to do it in like a very well ventilated place. Like I should even wear a mask and stuff. But no, I'm done with the glasswork, so no more late nights for me. I'm getting a lot more sleep. I'm not taking naps at work to make up for it. So
Excellent.
it's good.
Well, I'm glad that you were okay with joining me tonight instead of doing that, because I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks, and well, not 2 whole weeks, but in my head, it's basically like being out for 2 weeks. So we're going to double record tonight and post both, and I'm very excited. But I'm also one of those people that I'm like a constant worrier, to the point where vacations sometimes are almost as much work and stress as they are fun. I can't help it. I can't shake that, but that's okay. Again, this podcast is what I needed to end my week. And so that being said, today we are talking about The Runaway. That's Book 3 Fire, Episode 7. And while I totally get the title, I got to be honest, the first time I looked at the title before I watched the episode in this watch through, I could not remember what episode it was. It doesn't seem to fit, but that's fine. Before we get to the episode, though, we do have a couple of things we want to talk about. First, we had Chris was going to offer a review of the latest comic that came out in the series, if you would like to do that.
I will go ahead. Okay, so this past Tuesday, the final installment of Legend of Korra: Ruins of an Empire came out, which is this here. So the story is complete, and I have to say it is probably one of my favorite stories of all the comic books, which I'm kind of starting to have an issue with some of the comics, especially mainly the ones that have to do with Avatar: Last Airbender, because that story is pretty much done and wrapped, and we know where those characters eventually end up at. It just kind of takes, you can't really do that much in the story. So honestly, I would rather, they've already pretty much wrapped up a lot of the things, a lot of the story points from the TV show. They found Zuko's mom, stuff like that, la-di-da-di. I would either like them to just focus all their attention on Legend of Korra comic books, or I like them to do a time jump and go over, when the gang are like adults and stuff. But, all the stuff in the middle, I'm not as interested. Anyway, back to the stuff that I am interested in is the continuation of Korra's story. And this is a really good comic book, and I think it's a lot better than the previous one, because this actually involves a main character that we saw in the previous series, and that is Kuvira. And Kuvira gets a little bit of redemption arc here. At the end of Legend of Korra, she pretty much bows down to the Avatar. She says like her power cannot come close to it. Which is a really great moment of Korra just reaching out to Kuvira even after everything she's done, and Kuvira has a chance at redemption here, and I think it's a really good read. I don't want to spoil too much any of that, but I highly recommend it. I think it's one of the better comics that comes after the series. I do think it's better than Turf Wars, which was a Legend of Korra comic before this. Turf Wars had a lot of great stuff in it as well, but this one is really good. Also, random note, it's not like a spoiler or anything, but they're a little bit more mature in this comic book. Like, there's a scene in here, and I'm pretty sure Korra is just trying to get laid, and it's kind of hilarious, but she gets interrupted. And then you're like, oh yeah, they're like 21 or 22.
What? I don't know if I ever considered until talking to you, not necessarily this episode, we talked about it before, but like the limitations that you face just by, like, we already know where characters end up in the end, and it's very restrictive to what you can write. Honestly, not something I ever would have thought about until you like pointed it out directly, and then it became like a John Mulaney thing, like, yeah, it is. And we are coming up on the time, though. I know that my local library has a few of them because we are coming up on time where I'm going to have to start reading these guys in between seasons. I'm not going to like put the show on hold, but that's just when I'm going to start reading them is when we are officially done with Avatar: The Last Airbender. Then I'll start reading them, provide updates.
Yeah. Do you have access to Hoopla? Because Hoopla has a lot of them on there.
I do have Hoopla, and that's
that's
still
right, you
linked.
do,
yeah. You and Adam Setter. Do you remember Adam Setter? I wonder how he's doing.
Yes.
Really?
Remember, he has my old Avatar DVDs.
Oh, that's right, because his kids loved it. He has the smartest. I don't know why we're talking about this random person none of you are ever going to meet, but he has the smartest twin children I've ever met in my life. But he's also very smart, so I guess it kind of makes sense. So, you and Adam showed me Hoopla. I think that's still tied directly to whatever library we are registered to. But I'm honestly still probably registered at Topeka as well, so I'm sure I'll be able to find it somewhere. So, yeah, it's coming up on time to start thinking about comics.
And there are plenty of Avatar comics on Hoopla. If someone doesn't know what Hoopla is, it's like go there. They have plenty of comics, plenty of TV shows, and it's all free. Just check if your local library can like connect to it. I can't explain it that much better, but it's all through your local library. Because local libraries are cool. I go to my local library like
it's not like
at least
Overdrive.
Twice a month.
It's not like Overdrive where you're literally kind of limited to exactly what your library has. It's more like a larger network of libraries, and you're just registering through your library.
Yeah,
I don't know how to explain it very well, but there is a lot of good stuff on there. I use it probably most frequently for podcasts these days. I don't like to read on my phone a lot, and I forget that you can use Hoopla on other things. But
like audiobooks and stuff. But
yeah,
recommend Hoopla.
And then the other thing we wanted to, well, I'm glad you liked it. It was your favorite so far. That's pretty high praise, and I just kind of glossed over that. That's of all the comics to be in contention.
Of all the comics, the search is my favorite, and this one may be my second favorite. Smoking Shadow is also really good. But see, and the thing is, these three are both like continuations, or they drive the characters. And the search is all about finding Azuka's mom, and Smoking Shadow is really more Azula's descent into madness, a little bit of that. And then, of course, in Legend of Korra: Ruins of Empire, it's continuing Kuvira's story and also Korra's story and pretty much all those gang. And they, we don't know where their story ends at. So,
at least a little more opportunity for intrigue there, I hope. And then the other thing that we wanted to talk about this week is that last week we did our top 10 moments in Avatar: The Last Airbender as our 15th anniversary special, and it was a really good podcast and got good views relative to the other podcast videos, not relative to your other videos, but relative to the other podcast videos. Good downloads on podcast.com. Downloads are pretty important.
If we ever had like 20,000 people watch one of our podcasts, I would think we made it.
I would assume.
Holy crap. I mean, not that all my videos get there. I probably only have like 3 videos that high, but still.
I would be very surprised that anyone could sit and listen to all of us on like 20,000 people to listen that long. I'm assuming the people that watch the podcast on YouTube are still, I hope they're just listening only. Yeah. Like I do that at work all the time, just listening to YouTube on my phone or whatever, but I hope they're doing
there's a pretty good, I saw a pretty good Twitter status of like, it's to encourage small creators. It's like, oh, if your video only got like 10 to 15 views, don't worry about it. That's a classroom. Oh, 300? That's a whole, I don't know, auditorium of people. 1,000? Wow, you just talked to 1,000 people. 20,000? You're a stadium full of people that you just gave this video to. Like, don't. And I mean, it's right. Like every single accomplishment, no matter your level, like you're reaching people.
And this one was really gratifying to see it get views and just like a nice rate of views and a nice rate of thumbs up. I think we did a good job. I was really happy with it. And it sounds like we got a number of like nice, insightful, positive comments, and you were going to take a minute to read through a few of those.
Yeah. All right. So we did reach out just to ask people what some of their favorite comments were. Or I'm sorry, some of their favorite moments were. I cannot pronounce this person's name. It looks very foreign. It's like CBET and then some characters that I do not know what they are. Um, but I'm going to like weirdly try to pronounce it. Sabinich Chalafak.
You did it. You did it. Hey, but watch your
Yeah,
language
I
there at the
did
end,
it.
okay?
Sorry. Um,
Just joking. Just joking.
sorry, this person. I don't mean to mispronounce your name, but I don't know this language.
Please do not let our
Anyway,
poor pronunciation of names, which we clearly do through all of Avatar, not just through strangers on the internet. We pronounce lots
that's
of
true.
names wrong, so that's like a good. See, we do it to everybody.
Yeah. So he says number 7 is the Aang and Zuko background. Number 6, Ursa's origin story. Number 5, Zuko confronts Ozai. That was one of our top moments as well. His number 4, Zuko and Aang hug in the end. You know, and we really didn't talk about the ending there. That's a really good moment where they kind of come all the way full circle.
The end, I think the issue is the end, you could pull, a top 20 out of those last few episodes. Like, we really got to pick and
Yeah.
choose at the end there, but
Yeah. True.
either way, it's still a great point, of course.
Number 3, Katara forgives Zuko. Number 2, Zuko apologizes to Iroh. That was our number 1. Number 1, Zuko and Azula final battle. So I have no complaints on any of the. Well, I don't have any complaints on any one things.
Yeah.
Another person, Unicorn, who's commented before. So shout out to her. Other guy commented before as well. She said one of her favorite moments was the beach when Zuko goes to his family's house, and even though his father hates him and abused him, he's still happy memories of this place. And then Azula comes to him and she says, "I thought I'd find you here," which we mentioned in the previous episode about the beach, how much I loved that moment. Sean didn't love, or maybe he didn't appreciate the moment as much, but I absolutely loved that moment.
But
I really agree with you.
I'm so flattered that people would actually take the time out of their days to leave a comment on our YouTube podcast. I'll go watch it again and pretend and try harder to appreciate it, just as a way of saying thank you.
It would probably make, I'm not sure it'll make my top 10, so that therefore definitely wouldn't make our top. It'll make my honorable mention, definitely. And then another person says, I think my favorite moment is when Zuko confronts Ozai, so I'm glad you guys included it. Cool. That was Arcadian Luminous. And Rodrigo Santos says, kind of surprised that Katara facing down Yan Ra wasn't mentioned. So, when she faces her mother's killer, that is a really, really great moment. And then he also would have added the battle during Day of Black Sun. I think when it comes to Day of Black Sun, to me, Zuko confronting his father kind of dwarfed a lot of the actual physical battles there. But there was really good. There was a really good Toph and Aang and Sokka fight with Azula eluding them.
This almost makes me excited for an official top 10 episodes of all 3 seasons, because I think it's going to do a better job of grasping our feelings into a single episode. Obviously, because we're talking about full TV show episodes, but it's making me look forward to that even more.
Yep. Another Diverse Joe talked about Avatar and the Fire Lord, and how they were best friends and they really kind of hit them. And then this one that I'm kind of sad that I forgot is from Caitlin Thurston. First off, she said that the 4th spot of Toph and Sokka hanging on surprised her. Kind of surprised me too, but that's always been one of my favorite moments. Anyway, she says...
I skewed that one because I loved that. That was the one that I tried to drag up a little higher.
She says, for the best moments in ATLA, it's hard to choose just 10. It really is hard. But anyway, she says she would add May and Ty Lee's betrayal at the Boiling Rock and Azula going out her way to find Zuko at the summer house. So she also loves that moment. But I kind of would have added that betrayal. It would have at least made my honorable mentions, because that was probably one of the most jaw-dropping moments of the series when May and Ty Lee betray Azula. That was really good.
I will agree that at least not an honor. I don't know if it's my top 10, but I agree that it's a bad oversight for, if you consider that we had 10 honorable mentions. So to miss out on a top 20, essentially, that was a bad oversight. Good call out.
Oh, yeah. That is a good call out. And that's all of them. So thank you all for watching and commenting your top picks. I actually really enjoyed. I listened back on a lot of our podcasts, but I listened back on this one, and I actually enjoyed listening to it, if I can pat ourselves on the back enough. But I'm glad you all seem to get something out of it.
I rarely listen to the full things. I usually start it, make sure the audio sounds okay and whatnot, or it's at work, I'm doing other things. But yeah, this one I made it almost the whole way through, and very intentionally. and then I don't know, meeting at work or something. I didn't start it back up, but I thoroughly enjoyed doing the episode, and I think that after we are done with all of the Avatar: The Last Airbender series, there's going to be a ton of videos that I feel like we could do in that time. It's almost going to be hard to pick and choose, like, which top and bottom tens do we give videos to? When do we start Korra? How much time do we give to, like, extra stuff in between? I think it's going to be an interesting development in the podcast. Maybe just interesting to you and me. Maybe not interesting to other people. That's fine. So
yeah, we have an episode coming up at some point about Smash Bros. That I kind of think only me and you are going to be interested in. But I'm excited to do that.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I think the idea, I don't know what we're going to do with it, but I think the idea will actually have a lot of appeal, because I have a feeling that a lot of people that like Avatar also like Smash Bros. I bet there's a large cross section of people. So it'll be like one that like 1,000 people watch or something insane that's really surprising, but then we'll check the stats. It'll be like they only watch like the first 5 seconds to see whatever we're doing with it, and then they'll click on to the next. They'll click it for the title. No, I'm really excited for that stuff. But other stuff for another time. For the time being, I think we're going to go ahead and get into the episode, where we are double recording this evening, so we're going to keep things, I don't want to say concise, we're going to keep things on point-ish. That's a really great picture. I love that picture. So we bring you...
Looks like it went into his skull. And...
It does. It looks like it impacted it enough to... Look at that. I mean, there's a little bump on his head where it looks like it has been impacted. Yeah. What great animation there for Combustion Man. Sorry about that, dude. You're still one of my favorite villains, even if you're very, not forgettable. What's the word? He has like no impact or very few consequences. Yeah, he's very inconsequential in the end. He's still one of my favorites. So, The Runaway.
All right, so we'll start off with Team Avatar. They're in the Fire Nation. They're broke. Very broke, and Toph decides in order to make more money, they can go scam a bunch of people. But before that, Toph and Aang and Katara are training. They get into a little spar. This episode's pretty funny, I think. When Aang is training with them, he's like, all right, I'm ready. And then, like, they're all fighting and stuff, but they're like, Toph accidentally bends and hits Katara, then Katara hits Katara hits Toph, and then they start fighting in the mud, which is a really minor cool fight. And then Aang is like still has on his blindfold, and then and the Sokka behind him says sneak attack, and Aang just earth bends like this wall, and I'm assuming that Sokka like hits it right as it goes up. He says, Sokka, you can't scream sneak attack when you want to sneak attack on somebody.
It's a fair point.
Yeah, love that moment.
He's giving fair chase. I don't think you got to give fair chase to the Avatar, though. I think you can pretty much do whatever.
Yeah. So afterwards, the team minus Katara goes into town, and Toph starts to just kind of swindle a bunch of people out of their money. I understand the first guy; that's completely legitimate. Like you gotta get him. The guy with the moving rocks.
Yeah, that guy was a swindler, so I got no issues with that.
It's fine. I just watched a random YouTube video pretty much of that same thing. This guy in like New Orleans, he would do that to people. Like, all right, you got to pick one. And he'd just be like so quick with it. It's just, and he would just pretty much swindle people out of their money. And the thing I love about that is that the guy's setup is good, right? Like, he makes it to where she will win no matter what. You know, it's the game. It's a shell game, and he puts the rocks into both of them. That way, it builds some confidence that she won one.
You get that first one out, and then you go, you double it up the next time. I dig that.
Yeah, because he was thinking ahead. He saw the sword. He was like, all right, I'll get her to think that she can easily win, and then I'll get her to bet her friend's sword, and that's what he did. And then she earthbended the pebble back in.
Can you remind me, this is in the Fire Nation too, and that's kind of their validation later on in the episode of like, I mean, I'd probably think the same thing, like whatever, it's just some Fire Nation schmucks, it's fine.
Keep talking about it, Sean.
Sure. And so essentially the first guy, and that's what kind of spawns the whole thing, is Toph
Yeah, doing
swindles
something.
this swindler. Chris has a visitor. And then it sort of builds from there to they start becoming the swindlers. They start becoming the hustlers and making more and more money. And eventually it builds up into a big rift in between Toph and Katara. I don't know if Katara is as worried about the dishonest part of it as she is that they'll get caught, but she kind of, I mean, she hits both, but it always strikes me as more of a precautionary thing rather than an honesty thing. But
Yeah, Katara still want to talk. She swindled those pirates out of that out of that pirate, out of the waterbending scroll.
and that's what makes
I
me
think
think
she's
that it's
fine.
less to
Well,
do with honesty in terms of like picking your
yeah,
targets. It's just a safety measure that she's worried. And they're also in the Fire Nation. They're in the heart. Well, I don't know if they're in the heart of the Fire Nation, but they are in the Fire Nation. They're living there,
yeah,
already a pretty high risk situation, and Toph's out there literally gambling it. So I have a hard time
yeah.
not siding with Katara a little bit.
Oh yeah, I completely side with Katara in this case.
Also, Toph is famous because her family is rich. That's probably worth throwing out. Not famous, but she's got a rich family.
Yeah. But so Katara and Toph gets into an argument. This is a real heavy Katara Toph episode, even though it's called the Runaway. They have the argument, and they say some real genuine, I wouldn't say hateful things, but mean spirited. There's mean spirit behind it. Katara says, you only acted out because your parents, were so controlling, and Toph says, you're not our parents. And all of that is really interesting. It really gets down to how different those two are. And I think one thing I think is great that there's no mold for female characters in this show. These two people are completely different from each other, but they're both really great characters. Um, and Katara gets on her about stopping all these things, and they get into a big huge fight about it. And then they do it again. Sokka goes in. He finds the wanted poster of the Runaway, and I love how he goes to Toph. He's like, Toph, you gotta see something. Essentially, or I gotta show you something. He like
Whips it out
unleashes the paper. She's like, I think it's a piece of paper, but I'm assuming you were talking about what's on the piece of paper. That's such good blind humor in this episode.
Props to Toph for taking advantage of it every time. I'm gonna point this out.
Yes. And she's in the picture of the Runaway, looks just like her. It makes me sad that she can't see it, but she's still happy that Sokka says it looks like her.
It's a compliment either way. Like they did a nice job of capturing your good side.
Yeah. So then we get into some really great moments. Really, I think the heart of the episode. After a while, after Toph and does all these tricks and stuff, Sokka takes her to the side and have a serious conversation with her. After there's like a big blow up between Katara and Toph, and Toph says like, in the heart of it, Sokka says, yeah, I know Katara can be bossy and stuff. That's actually depend on it. Like when my mother died, Katara stepped up. She took care of the family. And like you think about how old Katara was at that point in time. So all this really informs character Katara so much. She's such an amazing character. But the saddest part, which I kind of wish we would have added to at least honorable mentions in our list, is that what Sokka says about Katara is just so freaking heartfelt. He says, when I try to imagine my mom, like I can't. The only face I see is Katara's. Like one thing, the writing there is impeccable. Like that is some amazing writing about one thing about the character of Sokka, and also just how much Katara means to him. And it's just the thing about memories is that the farther you get from people, it is kind of harder to imagine them. Like I go a long time not seeing my parents. Sometimes you think to yourself like, wow, I haven't seen them in a long time. Like you start visualizing, how they look and everything, and things that happened in the past. And memory is a funny thing, right? You can easily, weirdly, subconsciously, change your memories, and it's so sad that for Sokka, when he tries to remember how his mom looks, all he sees is Katara.
And usually it skews younger too, right? You think of a loved one that has passed away, especially if it's like a grandparent or something like that. Usually you probably remember them in a maybe better state than the way they ended or the way they went out, or like usually you're remembering a picture more than anything. So somebody dressed up nice, looking nice. At least I'm speaking for everybody, but I shouldn't be. That's for me when I think of that. Is I'm usually picturing the good parts of somebody, usually associated with a specific photo. And so, yeah, Sokka's like his skews real young. It goes to his sister instead of his mom, but also doesn't have many photos. Happened when they were very young. It's a sad moment. This episode is a roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah, and I kind of felt to mention, but Katara is like listening in as this is going on, and so she kind of and Toph also says like, oh, like sure, Katara can be that way, but she cares about me more than my real parents do, like the real me, like such great moments for these characters to grow. And then Katara overhears that, and she's like, oh, you know what, I'm gonna not be so hard on her, and we're gonna do our own scam.
It's a win-win. She's we're gonna do a big one, gonna cash out, get away, everybody wins. We stop the scamming, we get the money.
Yes.
Like, it's a brilliant idea, in my opinion.
Yeah. And so the Runaway has a bounty out for her. Katara's gonna turn it in, they're gonna get the money, and none of that happens. They lock them both up, and Combustion Man walks out, walks to the room, and it's a trap for Aang. Which, first of all, let me say, if you haven't seen my casting list for the Netflix series, check that out. One of my choices is Dave Bautista as Combustion Man. I absolutely want that to happen. That's one of my top 5 choices. If any of my choices happen, that's one, because he just looks like him. Like, it is uncanny how much he looks like the Combustion Man.
But it's going to be really hard not to think of Drax if that's the case, It's going to be tough to see.
I think it's fine. Like, he has all that makeup on and stuff. I don't think of Drax necessarily when I think of...
I'm not gonna,
he's such a different character.
When I see regular Dave Bautista, I still just think of Drax. Probably because Drax is one of my favorite characters because I like comedy. So
yeah,
it's gonna be my first mention. You know what? Drax could be Sparky Boo Man. No, that's fine.
Yeah. So it's a trap for Aang, and Combustion Man ends up finding them, and he ends up finding Aang and Sokka, and they end up fighting. And while Katara's trying to get out, there's one moment that I want to talk about. I'm glad I remembered. Katara and Toph have a really great moment alone together, and they kind of make up for everything. Toph cries in this moment, and I really, really would have loved if the way that Katara thinks about water changes in this moment. Like, imagine Toph crying, and then Katara consoling her, and then Katara sees her tears drop, and Katara like wipes them away, and then she realizes, oh, this is water. Like, and she uses that water and gets the idea from there to slice open the door. I think it would just be a good little conduit into that, and then she'll start working out and sweating and stuff.
It makes me think of the episode of Futurama where Fry drinks the emperor of whatever, I forget the name of the planet, and they're these creatures made of water. And then they have to make him cry to get him back out again. So they keep saying mean, hurtful things, and then finally they just start hitting him or something. I forget how it goes. That's what Katara needed to do. Is just hit the blind girl, make her cry.
Yeah. Anyway, so they break out, and together Team Avatar defeats Combustion Man. Toph kind of gets the last hit in. She earth bends this rock, and he blows it up with his mind. But then at the same time, there's just this little pebble that she gets to hit Combustion Man right in the head, and he can't focus anything. And so when he tries to combustion bend at them, he just ends up blowing himself up in front of them. And then one thing that's a great foreshadowing into his demise later on.
It's too bad. He could have made such a great partner for what's her name in Ba Sing Se.
June. Yeah.
June. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. We also didn't mention that before all that. Yeah. Yeah, we also did mention before all that, which was really hilarious. Aang and Sokka are trying to get Katara and Toph to come together and to make up, and so no to Katara from Toph, and then Katara says, "Sokka, I know this is you. Toph can't read or write." And
Poor Sokka.
one
He
thing,
tries so hard.
yeah. And then they're like, well, and then Aang is like, well, hey, maybe we can send one to Katara. I mean, to Toph. And then I was like, I think we're gonna have the same issue.
You gotta
Oh
see this.
gosh. But one thing, I think it's a testament to just how capable Toph is that they legitimately forget that she is blind.
It's like, so they use her as a crux for comedy. Like, she's not the source of the comedy, but kind of, what am I trying to say here? It's not like she's the butt of jokes. Like, Sokka being stupid is usually the butt of the jokes. But can you imagine, like, when they're, hey, we're gonna have a blind earthbender because we think that fits really well with a certain moral we want to hit with Aang, and also it's gonna be hilarious. It's gonna lead to so many hilarious Sokka moments when he's clueless. It's gonna be great.
Oh,
Wish I
so
could.
then, yeah, because he gets that messenger hawk, and then afterwards, Katara, Toph goes to Katara and says, after they make up and everything, she's like, "Can you do something for me?" And Katara writes a note to Toph's parents, pretty much, asking them for. Actually, I don't know what she writes to them.
I don't think
Yeah,
we see it, do we?
I'm not gonna say anything. Well,
No, yeah, I
so
don't.
Toph reunites with her parents in the comic books, but I'm not exactly in that relationship. It's not a good one when they first meet because, like, her dad won't even recognize her as his child. And it really like saddens Toph a lot.
Oh,
But then they get over it, and and they um they work through that. And then in Legend of Korra, of course, they're better because Toph sends Suyin to live with her grandparents after Suyin pretty much almost after Lin Beifong arrests Suyin for stealing.
that's right.
But
Man, it's
yeah,
been
that's
so
kind
long
of
since I've
the
seen
episode. So
Korra.
like,
I gotta get back. We gotta get back in there so I can watch that through again. That's gonna be half the fun though, is feeling like it's kind of a
yeah,
fresh perspective. But
my perspective would not be fresh. I just got done watching Legend of Korra because my daughter loves watching it, which I love that.
I think
Both my kids love watching a lot of stuff. My son, to my not necessarily to my detriment or to my dismay, but he loves watching Into the Spider-Verse. Like we watch it like once a day.
oh man,
And I'm just and as a bad and one thing I love Into the Spider-Verse, but I'm just like
that's a lot of. But all kids
I
go
need
through
to.
that phase though, right? Where you get whatever that
Yeah, I
movie
went
is.
through
Usually
it
it's a
too.
kid with a
Yeah,
Disney movie. Gosh, what was mine?
mine was Lion King.
Mine was probably Space Jam.
Hmm.
Yeah, I bet
Okay.
it's Space Jam. And to this day, Bill Murray is like one of my like I want to meet Bill Murray in real life so bad. I mean Michael Jordan obviously, but no, Bill Murray. Michael Jordan,
My,
you kind of know what you're gonna get with Michael Jordan. Like, oh, he's really competitive and good at basketball. Bill Murray is like, what's gonna
yeah,
happen when I meet Bill Murray?
that's true.
Well,
Yeah. The other movie of mine was Scooby Doo meets Batman. That was also
oh,
a
that's a
favorite.
great one.
Uh,
Scooby Doo meets Batman, and then Scooby Doo Zombie Island with their huge Zombie Island face. I know it didn't have the same appeal as Batman, but it's got a killer soundtrack. Um, yeah, so all kids go through that phase, and he'll get out of Spider Verse, and he'll still love it, but you might be really sick of it by that time. So everyone will be grateful. Uh, I think that's basically the end of the episode. They send off the messenger hawk with the pun intended unseen message, pun very much intended. And I think that's the end of the episode. Is there any sort of cutaway to back to Sparky
no,
Boom Man or anything, or is he just out cold after
no,
his
no
face
Zuko,
explosion?
nothing there. Yeah, just out cold.
Yeah, and as much as I hate to give Zuko credit, the lack of a B plot in this kind of hurts it. It makes the episode feel
Hmm.
less. I'll get to it in the ratings. I don't want to spoil too much.
Okay. So my ratings: audiovisual a 7. that overall really, I think, impressive happened. Good stuff as usual. So just a 7. Story gets a 7.5. I think just the stuff with Toph and Katara and how their relationship grows, but specifically what Sokka says about Katara and how her face is when he imagines when he sees his mother. Other than that, the episode is relatively inconsequential, if we're going to overuse that word again. But you could
word
really
of the
take this
day,
episode out.
inconsequential.
It's like my word. Anyway, memorable an 8 because I think the comedy in here is really good. And of course, like I said before, that moment is really memorable. So it gets an 8. That brings weighted average score to a 7.4 out of 10. Yeah, it's kind of a middle of the road episode for me.
Fairly similar ratings on these. I was a little harsher on the audiovisual because other than Sparky Boom Man blowing stuff up, I cannot think of anything like moderately interesting to look at or watch. I guess the swindling kind of, but whatever. Story pretty similar as well. You get really roller coaster of emotions. Absolutely is. And I will say, or what I had started to say, was not having Zuko and Iroh. Something about it makes this feel like a much longer episode or a much longer story. And I think it's just because it's not jumping back and forth. I don't know if that's really a detriment or good or bad. It's an average story. And then memorable, I kind of cued at it at the beginning when I was like, when I saw this title, like I couldn't even think of what episode it was talking about before the episode actually started. I mean, it makes sense, but it's one of those things that doesn't stick out in my brain. You take out that one moment, and all you're left with is like a little B plot of a different episode, basically. So 7.1, little on the lower end, but not bad or anything. 7.3. I think that's. I don't think there's going to be a huge fan base that like adores this episode outside of that one very emotional moment. There's the standoff between the two. Sokka raising his hand to ask a question.
And I do think, IO visual-wise, I do think this is probably one of Jesse Flowers' best performances as Toph. Toph doesn't get a chance to really open up, I think, as much. I think Jesse Flower, the voice actress of Toph, which that's just her stage name. She actually has another name, which I forget what it is. But I think she does a good job. So maybe I would have raised that up a little bit more because I think Toph kind of does a little bit more here. But that's my score.
That's fair. Yeah, and it's nice to have a Toph episode. So, yeah, again, not bad. Just there's not a whole lot going on here outside of one or two. I really like seeing Sparky Boom Man. Obviously, there's a little touchy-feely moment. I mean, that's it, though. Like, we just hit the 2 high points of the episode. That's all right. That's going to happen sometimes. So, that was the Runaway. We're kind of getting to the... How do I word this politely? We're getting toward the end of these kind of filler-ish episodes, so to speak. Like, they're not padding, but just the ones that kind of feel like they can fit anywhere. We're kind of getting to the end of these before we hit the climax of the entire series. So, can't really feel the build-up yet, but it's coming. So, in the meantime... I don't know where I was going with that. That's all I got to say on The Runaway. Chris, final thoughts?
No final thoughts. If you have any questions or comments, please let us know. If you have questions, we'll address them here.
If you haven't watched our top 10 video yet, if you can't tell, we are pretty proud of that. Go peek at that video. We're pretty happy with how that one turned out. In the meantime, my name's Sean. That's Chris Ford, aka The Objective Geek, on YouTube and Twitter. And of course, you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and a Facebook page is The Last Podcasters. So go check that out, and we will see you shortly. See you next time.